So I found myself lately thinking about this phrase a lot. It came up because I was thinking about my profession and the work that I do by and large, which is a consultant, a business consultant. And I'm not always super excited to admit that because for those that have been consultants, it can be polarizing. It can kind of have a weird taste in your mouth about consulting sometimes. But that's actually what I was thinking about. Like, why is that the case? Why did I get into consulting? Why did I think this was a value added thing versus what sometimes it looks like? And I thought of this phrase that at its core, what I think consulting should be, at least like deep strategy consulting, where you're really trying to help clients solve a problem and work through something that they can't figure out on their own, right? There's all different types of consulting that you could be doing. That's more like staff augmentation or very niche specific areas where the client doesn't have expertise. But in kind of broad strategy consulting, the phrase or the core essence of it, I thought was, you're hiring us to be curious in ways that you can't be yourself, right? You're hiring us to be curious in ways that you can't be. Now, my first thought when I thought of that was, that might be harsh. Like that might be too aggressive. I could see why that's not like that. That shouldn't be in the go-to-market materials. That shouldn't be what you're selling to a client, because it may come off as like arrogant or condescending. I can be curious in ways that you can't be. But I think if you interpret it that way, A, you're misinterpreting it, but B, it probably speaks to some preconceived notion you have about consulting. And this holds for consulting, but it also holds for just people in general. Because I think, to the first point, right, you're misunderstanding what I say when I can be curious in ways that you can't be. That doesn't suggest that I'm better than you or smarter than you or anything like that. All it suggests is something that I think is a pretty obvious truth, which is all of us have different perspectives. Even the most open-minded of us, we still see things through our own lens, through our own mind, our own experiences, our own baggage, our own ego, our own insecurities, our own blind spots, all that stuff. And we have a unique perspective on the world. So I can be curious in ways you can't, you can be curious in ways I can't, and I can literally say that to anybody in the world. And that's kind of the spirit of the statement. You're bringing in a consultant to deal with this problem or deal with this challenge because you want them to be curious in ways that you can't be on your own. Internally, you see it a certain way and you want a different perspective. You want to be challenged. You want to be forced to look at it in a different way. And that's what consultants should do. They should be curious in ways that you can't be. To the second point, though, which is probably more of the visceral and true issue with a statement like that, where a client, somebody who's looking to hire a consultant might say, I'm never going to hire somebody that says that, is I think there's kind of this idea of service, this idea that as a consultant, I serve you as a client. It's gotten kind of bastardized and taken too literally, where it is, I serve you, you tell me what you need, and I give you that, right? And you see that play out often where clients will hire a consultant and already have a sense of what they need or what they think the answer is or what needs to be done, or they'll be very rigid of like, give me a proposal, give me a very specific timeline and structure of what you're going to do, what the output's going to be, what the deliverable I'm going to get is. And I get it, right? There's an operational financial responsibility aspect of that where you want to know what you're paying for. So it's not, completely irrational, but it's damaged that relationship. It's taken this idea of service and it's actually diminished it, because the service should be, I believe, let me help you figure out what you need. Let me help you figure out what this issue even is. Let me be curious in ways that you can't, so that we can look at this from all different angles and together figure out what's really going on here and then figure out how we want to solve it. But consulting has become so much of like, I need to promise you and assure you exactly what you're going to get up front. And I need you to be super comfortable with it and feel like it's right in the wheelhouse of what you want, that we don't have the opportunity to be curious anymore. That whole idea of allowing me or any consultant to come in and be curious in ways that the client can't, it gets smashed out and it doesn't exist. And I just think there's so much value left on the table when that happens. I think this concept of seeking out people, professionally, business world, or even personally, that can be curious in ways you can't, that's something we should all be doing. In many ways, it's the reason I do the podcast I do. I want to talk to people. I want to hear their perspectives. I want them to be curious, and I want to hear their curiosity of how they view the world, how they think about their values, how they think about their life choices in a way that makes me think differently, in a way that I could never do on my own. And I think that's the kind of dynamic or essence that we should be bringing to consulting. Let me come in, let us be curious, let us see what's actually there and figure out how, if in any way, we can help you. Figure out what the problem actually is, what the issue might be. Let us do that deep thinking. Let us value that curiosity in a way that isn't valued today. And I'd like to think that's the trajectory in which things start to move more towards. I'd like to think that there's an opportunity for consultants to step in and say, unapologetically, respectfully, humbly, but unapologetically, if you're hiring me, hire me to come in and be curious in ways that you can't be on your own. Hire me to come in and work with you to figure out different perspectives and unlock insights that we couldn't have done individually and get to a better outcome, to get to the objective that you want to get to.